One set.
Camera rolling.
Sound.
The good, the bad, the just plain standard. Take one.
Salut!
Hey!
Alright.
Welcome back to the Good, the Bad, and the Just Plain Standard podcast, where we provide you with our informed opinions on movies we watched together. We are your hosts,
Adam.
Anouk.
and Yann. Today is all about Shaun of the Dead.
Starring
Simon Pegg, Kate Ashfield, Nick Frost, Lucy Davis, Dylan Moran, and Bill Nighy.
Good. So that's how you pronounce it. I always had doubt. I didn't
Bill.
realize if there was a T in there. So Bill Nighy.
Nighy,
Nighy, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
There you go.
a very staple of the British cinema, Bill Nighy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Excellent in, is it Gary Oldman that's in Tinker Tailor
Underworld?
Soldier Spy?
He's in the Underworld.
I'm sure he's in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, but I could be getting him and Gary Oldman mixed up. Anyway.
And he's obviously in a Love Actually.
Yes.
Yeah. He's really good in that.
Oh, yes.
See, I love that film. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's just trash. But
So we've recorded the childhood trauma movies already. So this one is an extra one, Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Adam, you want to say why you chose this one, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, Shaun of the Dead for me has always been a genre-defying film. One of the successful amalgamations of comedy and horror that does it successfully. Also, the fact that we at Milk and a Wineglass production company instead of the podcast, we at the good, the bad, and the just plain standard started off with Edgar Wright way back in the end of August, which isn't that long ago, to be fair.
Baby Driver.
We started off with Baby Driver, so we thought, well, in our first ever month of a theme, let's cover an Edgar Wright film. And boy, did we pick a good one. This is Edgar Wright's first picture.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, this is first feature film.
Ah, nice.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it?
Yes, it's very nice. You can see some stuff that we talked about in Baby Driver. You can see the germs, like the baby version. Like
Yeah, you see a lot of things come back. And of Yann's favourite thing, to shout out to Victoria, there's not a long take, but there's a continuous shot in this film.
Yes, there is, and it's also between a house and a shop.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not a coffee shop this time, but there are actually twice. So there's
yes.
one when everything is fine, he goes there,
yeah.
and there is a second one which is way longer,
Yeah.
When stuff is no longer fine.
And how much we just don't notice anything.
It's funny, you watch, I've seen this film probably about 12 times now, I think. And every
Whoa.
I've seen this film a lot. I used to watch this a lot when I was a kid. Because it freaked me out. One of the death scenes really freaked me out. And then I saw where that death scene is really from, which is Dawn of the Dead, and that even freaked me out even more. So, plot summary for Shaun of the Dead. So, Shaun is your average English bloke, has a very dull job working in a television electronics shop, and has a pretty mundane and quite happy existence of working, going to the pub, working, going to the pub, you know. He's a very standard British lad. However, his girlfriend, Liz, is not too keen on all this, and unfortunately for Shaun, their relationship terminates. But what also terminates is everyone else in the entire world, as the next day, a zombie apocalypse breaks out. Or shall I say, a apocalypse break out, because we won't call them zombies in this film. Don't use the Z word.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yes.
So
Little quote.
So heartbroken Shaun attempts to find out what's happened to Liz, and then hold up with him, his friend, Ed, his mother, and a whole band of company until this all blows over.
So it's kind of a zomcom then.
Zomcom. Oh dear.
Yeah, I think that's how it's called. But I just watching it like zomcom. Yeah, it should work.
They would work.
Yeah,
Apparently, it's how it's called.
Isn't there like a zombie romantic comedy which was
Or a zomedy.
a zomedy?
Also,
Zomedy.
yeah.
It was like it's called Cold Blood or something like that.
Don't know that.
That's probably not the title, but it's like Romeo and Juliet, except they're zombies.
Oh.
I can't remember the name.
I don't know, but there is a recent Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yeah, that one.
I mean, that started off as a book, didn't it?
I think...
Or did it start off as a TV
I have no idea.
I think it's a book. I think it was a book or a graphic
Book
novel.
first, yeah.
I think there's Lily James in this one also.
Oh, yeah.
Or Lily, the other one, Collins, maybe, I don't remember.
It's very much a Downton-esque film, so it wouldn't surprise me if Lily James is in it.
Yeah, she's got quite a aristocratic face.
I didn't see that at cinema. I remember that being advertised, but I never went to see it.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I know that Janet told us that the fighting was just incredible.
Oh.
So yeah, she went to see it and she really loved the fighting in there.
Good film for people aspiring to do rapier and dagger or any sort of stage qualified combat.
Yeah.
So I didn't do any research on this one. We're just out of watching it like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, this is another rare one that we actually watched all together at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a question who came up during watching. So what's the story behind the meeting of those three minds? Especially Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, who co-wrote the movie. There's also Nick Frost.
They met on the British television comedy series Spaced.
Ah, right.
Which is...
we talked about that, I think.
So I think we brought up Space in the Baby Driver podcast.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen Space in a long time. But from what I remember, it's essentially the idea for Shaun of the Dead was born out of one of the episodes where Simon Pegg's character in Space takes too much speed and alcohol, and he plays far too much Resident Evil 1. So he has like this zombie-filled nightmare.
Those dogs in the corridor, man.
After that episode, Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright had the idea to make a feature film about the zombie apocalypse, featuring the majority of spaces present in that film. The female equivalent of Shaun is the major female character in Spaced.
Okay.
Spaced is a good series. I haven't seen it in a long time and I don't remember it that well. But from what I do remember, if you like Edgar Wright, it's worth having a watch.
There's also another one, but I don't think Edgar Wright is involved, but it has the two leads, Frost and Pegg. Paul, have you seen this one?
I've seen Paul, yes.
Okay.
Shout out to Alien. Sigourney Weaver's in that film as well, actually. She's
the... Oh, yes.
Yes. big something. I don't really talk about that in this case because it's quite a spoiler.
Yeah.
Paul's alright. I remember honestly going to see Paul because I liked Simon Pegg from Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz was one of the things I loved as a kid. I shouldn't have watched Hot Fuzz as a kid, but...
Hot Fuzz is good.
Hot Fuzz is amazing.
It's really interesting. But, I mean, that's the most amazing things about certain films, that you can watch them as a child and then you go back to them as an adult and you see it, and it's like a completely different film, like, because you understand little jokes and, you know, there are things like, I mean, even things like Toy Story you can watch over and over again, because... For
example, in this one, I saw a joke that I've never seen in like the 12 times I've seen this. And there was a joke I hadn't seen already. I'm like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, that's clever. So yeah, it's multi-layered.
Yes, there was one that I definitely clocked onto this time, and now I have completely forgotten it. Let's just hope that through this podcast at some point I'll just remember it.
You remember the jokes.
But it was just genius. It's like, how the hell could I have missed that the first? But you do. There's so much stuff going on.
It's multi-layered on multiple levels, actually, because the story, the writing and the background action and stuff.
Right.
It's very, very, very smart.
You watch and I mean that happens in and now I'm cross connecting films, but like that happens in Alien all the time. Like you're watching something that's in the forefront, but in the background something's happening, and if you don't watch it closely, you'll miss it. And Edgar Wright does that in Baby Driver, Hot Fuzz, and Shaun of the Dead.
Yann, you were around in the 90s.
Yes.
Did you, in the birth of the internet?
So were we, Adam.
Yeah,
Jesus
but me and you
we weren't like 2000 babies.
No, what I mean is, Yann, did you ever join like any fan forums for any like, say like Firefly or Star Wars or something like that?
You know, that's funny you're saying that, because when I went away for a few days last month, I went back to France, to my very old house where we grew up, and I went to a kind of a cupboard where I used to hide my stuff, and I brought them up. Well, I don't have them there, but I'll need to show you that. Like fan club letters, like fanzines and stuff from Quantum Leap.
Ooh, okay.
Yes. Yes.
So you would be happy to know that all of the extras, like the zombies, are fans of the spaced form. Edgar Wright and the team put out an advert on the forum saying, does anyone want to be zombies?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And there you go. There's majority of those extras are just not actors,
Cult
fans.
followings.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
That's
nice.
awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Actual forums, no, I don't really. For some French comedians, yeah, I used to be like a hardcore fan a few years ago, but
Well, that was forum pages were. I imagine forums were big before like the birth of Facebook and MySpace, when people could. That's where you had to go. There had to be a specific page for you guys to talk about it. Now it's on Facebook. You can join a group, message that way.
Right. And I mean, like, I've only seen them over the shoulder of like boyfriends and things, but they seemed really badly done.
Yeah.
And this was probably because they were done like in the early ages of the digital age. So maybe they didn't kind of get better as digital age kind of went on.
Well, fan forums basically evolved into Reddit.
Yeah,
Their
because-
big subreddits are basically fan forums,
Right.
essentially.
Or even just like YouTube comments as well. I just sometimes has
no. But the thing is that you used to need your or book or pay for a hosting provider and then install the actual forum system in there and create the whole thing. You know, I maintained the Liv Tyler official, well, not official, but in 1996, I was already tech savvy. So I created the Liv Tyler website that I'm trying to resurrect right now. And I never got to do a forum, but had plenty of pictures. And so it was, you needed to be tech savvy. Now you just go on Reddit and the audience is already there.
Yeah.
You had to also build your audience at the time, like very niche fan clubs, online fan clubs. So, yeah.
For other listeners, Shaun of the Dead is the first in the latterly named Cornetto trilogy, which is Shaun of the Dead, strawberry flavoured, Hot Fuzz, vanilla flavoured, and then At World's End. No, that's Pirates of the Caribbean. The World's End, something like that. I think it's The World's End is mint.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So there's a different flavour of Cornetto in each film.
Wasn't that something to do with the fact that was Edgar Wright's hangover cure or something?
It's Simon Pegg's hangover cure is apparently a Cornetto.
That's hilarious. That's really funny. That's so good that they kind of bring those things into their writing.
Write about what you know, really, isn't it?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, your hangover cures, why not?
Because some of the best writing is the stuff that is true to you, because you believe in it so much, and you can convey it as well.
Yeah, of course, like dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at something. You know, online there's a website called 3flavorsscreenplays.com. And you've got the 3 interactive screenplays in there. So I'll put the link because it's always interesting to... It's interactive in the fact that you've got loads of storyboarding elements and pictures and stuff. So it's not what actors usually get. It's for everyone. Yeah.
The thing that gets me about this film is that you can jump into it no matter what aspect of horror you're a fan of, because there's something here for everyone, I feel. There's a bit of action, bit of suspense, bit of drama, bit of everything, really.
I think Edgar Wright's really good at that kind of thing, because, I mean, most of his films are like that. Like, anyone can enjoy these films because they're just so much fun.
He uses a storytelling trick that I would call just like the Spielberg reveal, that you see the face before and then the camera displays what is actually happening. At the start, like Shaun is talking with his girlfriend and they're talking about Ed, and they say, no, it's fine. They're talking in a bad way about Ed is in the...
It is Ed.
Yeah.
Ed, yeah.
They're talking about, and then the camera quickly pans on and you've got that kind of stuff multiple times.
Yeah.
Like same with the friends.
The fast reveal.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Like at least 10 or 12, plenty of times you've got this very nice...
It's a really good way of getting rid of all the kind of boring stuff that we do in between getting from here to there, like A to B.
Oh, yeah. That's
well.
The transitions, like the fast cutaways.
Exactly.
Like you've got fast actions, doing, this has happened. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, so when they're beating up one of the zombies and then it just goes quickly transitions to them like holding a cup of tea shocked with like blood spattered on their face. Like that's so rare to see in filmmaking, and like it's such an ingenious way of cutting out all the bits that might seem, boring or like repetitive.
Well, that's the thing with this film. It's super quick.
Right. Like you
Doesn't
can't
waste
switch
any
off.
time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you don't want to switch off at all.
It reminds a bit of, you've obviously seen the very first Kingsman, right? The church
Yes.
scene.
Oh yeah.
Ah, yeah, that's a great scene. Oh my god, I love that scene.
Yeah.
It's great fun.
It's sad that appeared in the first Kingsman because I don't think anything in Kingsman does is going to top that. That moment.
Yeah, I guess so.
I haven't seen the new one yet, to be fair. So maybe that'll prove me
We'll
wrong.
see. I know that in the trailer, I really like Edgerton, the boy.
I got to just it's not Ansel Edgert. I used to mix those two names, but it's
No.
Taggart Egerton or something.
Yeah, right. His orange jacket. I think that's a beautiful color. Never seen that color before. Anyway, there you go.
There was one line I loved in there, which appeared quite early, twice, because you've got red on you.
Yes.
It was just ink, but it became blood quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly. You got red on you. Just sounds like blood.
Oh, I was talking about background action also earlier. I mean, so in terms of what you've got in the frame, but also in terms of the sound happening and the importance of Foley work. We never talked about that.
Yes.
It was the stuff that was introduced by, I think the first name is Jack Foley, a bit before when the cinema was transitioning between silent and sound. And they initiated the whole thing, and now it's known as by his name. The fact to add all the sounds afterwards, which really makes the difference when you watch something, because the production value is always the sound. Anyways, you've got the most beautiful image, and the sound is crap.
Yeah, you switch off. That's very true.
Oh, also, remember Baby Driver? At one point, the baby was watching the TV, and there were quotes from in here. You've got the whole story, full sentences made from bits of programs.
Oh, yes, like news.
Yes.
That's very clever.
It's also such a time bomb, especially for British watchers, because one of the clips is from something that used to be called T4, which was when Channel 4, which is on the Channel 4 on digital television, used to have on a weekend. It was a takeover, so I think it was meant to be for teens. So it was a lot of music video stuff, a lot of interviews, and
spring break type.
Yeah, and that doesn't exist anymore. I don't think T4 still happens, or if it does, I'm not in touch with it anymore. So it's quite nice to see stuff on the television, especially although you won't ever see it again because of issues involving sex scandals in the 70s. There was clips of It's a Knockout, which was a game show in Britain, not akin to any Taeshi's Castle-esque or Total Wipeout, where people would just be in a park on inflatables trying to do things. But the host of that show was later convicted of associations with... It was around the time of the Jimmy Savile case here in Britain, so he was around in that era, so It's a Knockout you can't see it anywhere now. Shows won't put it on. So, in a way, this is the only way you'll ever see a bit of it.
Like, what is it? Jim will fix it or something?
Yeah, you won't see any Jim will fix it stuffs anymore at all anywhere because of the revelations. So it's not nice, but it's strange to think that such a film like this has something in it that nobody now will get. Nobody will understand that joke of it's a knockout with zombies, because the show itself was totally ridiculous.
Oh, well,
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, those kinds of movies are so culturally ingrained. I mean, Deadpool was great, but someone watching Deadpool in 10 years won't understand any of the references. Honey Boo Boo and stuff. I didn't even understand what was on the spot, so it's highly focused, using references.
Yeah, it is a danger, being not self-referential, but time referential. Is dangerous. I mean, I'm sure there are films with people going, "What's up?"
Yes. I remember that pizza advert.
Or everybody who used to do in Borat, films later on that would go, "It's nice," stuff like that. That'll get dated.
I like you. Yeah. That's very true, actually. That's very interesting.
There is a symbolic I really liked in there. It reminded me of a French movie. As soon as he is dumped, the rain starts. Whoosh.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And we have a very, very popular movie in France that was called Bienvenue chez les Ch'tis, which was basically a guy who was trying to get a job in the south where there's sun and stuff, and he pretended to be handicapped to have more chances. It didn't work. So actually he was sent north where it's just nobody wanted to go. And as soon as on the road he passes the actual sign saying, "Welcome to Pas-de-Calais," well, the place, the rain, like crazy. Yeah, and it's a very funny film, and it got me thinking yesterday. We'll probably be doing instead probably of a French month, kind of an European month. Because of that film, there was an Italian version that was made, which was reversed, because he wanted to go to Milan, but he actually went to Naples. So that's the reverse, which is very funny. And we'll very certainly have an Italian guest, I asked, and she said, yeah, she'll be happy to.
Can we like totally ruin our own credibility? So we do like some really good French, really good Italian, and then we just do Mr. Bean's Holiday.
Yes.
You know the one where he goes to France?
Yes. I'm up for that. I'm up for that. Anything with Mr. Bean, I'm so happy with.
I think Yann will understand Mr. Bean more than he would understand Carry On.
Yeah.
Well, was that? Yeah, I've seen. Like, is that one of the movies or
the Mr. Bean Abroad? He goes to, I think, Mr. Bean Abroad, he basically wins a raffle to go to France, to go to the beach or something. I mean, like, you know, not Nice, but Naples, basically. And, not Naples. What's
I was about to say France.
Cannes, so like, you know, the south, where it's nice.
Oh, because yeah, we're fans. We are Mr. Bean fans in the house. I mean, in my family. So, especially those three-legged cars.
Oh,
there.
And the fact that he never speaks, pretty much. Yeah, we love.
Perfect.
We love him. Did you also notice? I don't know if it's a reference, but I really liked the girl in the garden with a hole inside her.
Yes.
It reminded me of the T-1000.
Oh, okay, yeah. It must have been, surely. Although, if it appeared in, because I know that this is a big appreciation of George R. Is it R? No, I think it's A. George A. Romero, who directed the classics of zombies. You know, he's the father of zombies, essentially, in cinema.
Yeah, not in real life.
He sadly passed away as well, George, this year, I think. This year or last year, because Edgar Wright wrote and had an open letter because they were such big fans, and George really likes Shaun of the Dead. He really gets it, because it is essentially Shaun of the Dead is Dawn of the Dead, really.
Right.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a joke, and it's a little bit satirical as well.
Well, even the title of the film, Shaun of the Dead.
Right, exactly.
Well, the jokes are. They are timeless also. Like, there's like, at the end, the mother, "I never thanked you." And you know, and for these. Okay, the flowers. Oh, well, fuck. Yeah.
For what? The flowers.
It just makes you realise how many cliches there are in some films. You know,
yeah, exactly. Like,
take care of me, son. Take care of your sister, son. Sort of thing. Like, you know, the speech is coming, the classic death speech, and then it's the reverse, like, I never said thank you.
Right, like how
for the flowers.
Like how Philip in the car, it looks like he's trying to get out, but actually he's trying to shut the music off.
Yeah.
And it's that is just perfect, because it's like, yeah. But that's when you start laughing at yourself. Because you think of this one thing and it's going to be like this immediately because we've seen it so many times, and then it switches and you're like, oh, why did I think that it would be that way? Which is kind of attuned to one thing.
I would have liked it if, I know this would have never happened, but it would have been quite funny if there's a deleted scene in Baby Driver where we like get a flashback to where Baby learned to drive, and it's actually Ed that taught him how to drive. Just when he's driving that car, like does the handbrake turn in the Jag. It's totally spinning around. It's like, there's no need for this.
Yeah, it's just overkill.
You know, before this one time we just watched it together, I watched it a while back, so I didn't even necessarily remember many things, but I especially remembered Zombie School. When they're trying to reach the Winchester, right? And I always wondered, would real zombies be fooled?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? In every single zombie film, there's always the scene of like, we have to get through the horde of zombies. The Walking Dead, for example, it comes up in Walking Dead so many times. It's like, oh, they've got to get through a herd of walkers. They're going to cover themselves in guts and then walk through. Because that's usually how they do it. It's like they cover themselves in the smell so that they don't recognize them. And
yeah,
then
they don't
act
smell
like
of blood or whatever.
I think that's the joke in this, is the fact that it's just They just act like zombies and it's all fine.
Acting.
Yeah, because we don't know if the zombies can really detect people with brains and
Yeah.
Yeah.
alive people. I don't know.
Yeah, what's the difference between...
Well, maybe we'll just ask because preparing for the Jigsaw episode, we are going to meet a zombie tomorrow.
Yeah, we are.
with him.
yes.
Maybe we should ask
her.
That's very true.
For listeners, we're doing an escape room.
Yes, we
we're
are.
not. We're not just like going to meet a zombie.
Well, no.
It's not my vampire girlfriend's mate who's a zombie.
We've got one chained in the back room.
Did that make the final version?
Yes, it did,
Yes,
but
it did.
I tuned it down heavily.
Okay.
Have you ever seen about zombies and have you ever seen Being Human?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
It's a very funny premise.
Have
Where
you?
there's
I like that too.
3 flatmates and there is 1 vampire, 1 zombie, and 1 ghost.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's the UK version and the US version.
The UK version's pretty good. The UK version has the actor that's like everywhere. He's like Budgie in Gavin and Stacey, and he's in Alonzo in Doctor Who, and he's in that episode, the Hound of the Baskerville episode.
Oh,
Doctor Who,
Toby,
yes.
he was in, he was in Angels in America.
yeah, he does.
Yeah, he's strong.
Oh yeah, he was. He was the opposite to
Toby something.
Andrew Gardner. Yeah. No, he does a lot of British stuff, and he's pretty good. He also
Yeah.
leads the it's very not standard. Standard's the wrong word. Very mundane-esque. Like Him and Her, which is a romantic comedy about a couple that have the most like normal life ever. They just like chill out and do nothing, and it's like there's no drama in the show, but it's funny. Mm-hmm. It's very, very British. It's actually, I really enjoy it, that show.
Russell Tovey. That's
Russell
his name.
Tovey, okay.
Yeah. Alonso, yeah. Alonso.
He's
yeah.
been in
Allons-y.
he's been on a lot of stuff. He's in History Boys with James Corden and the guy that was Vernon Dursley. Just recently died. Richard Griffiths? Richard Griffiths, yeah, that's it. And then obviously Gavin and Stacey and stuff like that too. So, good actor.
I love Gavin and Stacey.
I'll show you Being Human. It's really good.
Cool. Sounds good.
There's this bit of trivia we were wondering about. We noticed it both with Anouk. At one point in the car, just before Ed noticed the Jag,
Yeah.
he has a patch without hair.
Yeah, it's
Do
like
we know-
it looks like a mistake. Like you're going
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
just been shaved off.
I don't actually know the story behind that, but I do know that in the commentary from Simon and Edgar Wright, they mention it briefly about, we'll leave it to Ed in the cast documentary to explain why he's got a shaved patch on his head. I don't actually know.
They don't go on to say.
No, they do. I just haven't watched that one in a while.
Oh right.
So I can't remember off the top of my head. But the thing is, because of Ed's character, it wouldn't surprise you.
Oh, yeah, true. And that's probably why it was okay to leave it on, because it was like, oh, it's Ed, it's fine.
It's quite funny as well because I've never noticed that until today as well. Really, I've never really noticed it either. So like, it's one.
No, I hadn't noticed it before.
Yeah,
either.
it's like in Baby Driver, the sound editing where if he takes one headphone out, you hear the other one, or the constant hum. Once you notice it, you'll never not notice it. So there you go, listener. Prepare to notice the shaved patch on Nick Frost's head for the rest of your time if you ever watch Shaun of the Dead.
I mean, I didn't even realize when Shaun was on the phone and he was calling Liz and she was engaged, and he was like, oh, she's engaged, and then Ed goes, oh, that was quick.
Yes.
And I was just like, I've never noticed that before, but like even after that, Shaun acknowledges it.
Was that the joke you were trying to remember?
I think it might have been, yeah. And I remember laughing out loud because it's just like, how did I not notice that? It's so funny.
Do you know what? One bit of the film this is so bad. This is what Yann was talking about earlier about. Like in 10 years' time, people won't get the prices of the TVs in the shop. There was like a really crappy TV by now standards, like $4.99. I'm like, who's paying $4.99 for that thing? It's like one of them big box things. I have 2 cats, and we had this massive TV in our living room, with the back space, and it was a big, massive thing because it had like a built-in entertainment system at the bottom, so you could put like your DVD player and your DVDs and stuff. But the thing was huge, so the cat would just sit on top of it because you would get heat.
Oh.
And
It got really hot.
yeah, they
always
always got really hot. And I just remember the day we got a new television, like the flat screen, the cat just looking at it really confused, like, how do I sit on this? And eventually giving up, and like, all right, maybe I'll find something else to sit on.
like a box.
I'll go in a box or on a radiator or something.
Bilingual corner.
Ah,
Yes. You know, the engaged. It's pretty much one of the two reasons why I started to watch movies in their original languages, like when I was 16. First of all, because I could enjoy the actual acting and not dubbing, and jokes, because they can't be translated. They are adapted and it doesn't work. It can't be. So yeah, I've never watched it in French, so I don't know how they made it, but yeah.
That's so interesting, like to see if they would translate the joke fully or if they would have to change it because they wouldn't.
It's got to lose something in translation. It
Of
has
course.
to. I mean, we talked about this again on the Victoria episode. That me and you watched, when we were in Germany visiting your mother, we watched the Room on Fire. No, Man on Fire.
Man on Fire with
Room
Denzel
on
Washington
Fire.
and Dakota Fanning.
Yeah, so like it's all in German. So the subtitles are in German, but they speak English, and it gets really confusing when there's scenes of the Spanish talking Spanish that's subtitled in German, and you're understanding them speaking Spanish because I'm more familiar with the Spanish language than I am of the German language.
Right.
I'm like, oh, so that's the German for attention. Well, I know that one, but
Well, that was really weird because then I tried to translate it from the German subtitles into English for you. And then, so it was like Spanish, English, German, English.
it would be like,
so many
if you put onto Google Translate, you put a word into English, from English into German, and then change the German back into the English, you lose something. It comes out funny because it doesn't work out the nuances of the sentence. So it's kind of like that too. So that's why I imagine jokes don't translate well further out. I can't imagine the Chinese or Cantonese version of this film having that translation works totally well.
Yeah, because I mean, they have a different root completely. So they won't even have any similarities to our language.
Yeah.
Because they don't come from Latin or Greek or...
What is the French for engaged?
Engaged is, I was talking about that with Emma the other day, because when I told her that my brother just popped the question, I was, what's when you get the ring and is it engaged, married? So I think, so engaged is the first step when you pop the question.
You ask someone
and
to
then
marry.
you
become engaged.
So you're before you're married, you're engaged, and then you're married after the wedding type thing.
You're engaged up to you say I do.
Up to the wedding, yeah.
It's fiancé.
Of course it is.
So we obviously use the word fiancé as the person. Like,
I feel like
Adam is
also-
my fiancé.
It's also, yeah.
So you can say that in French too?
It's also a
course it
verb.
is.
Se fiancer. Yeah.
So, okay.
And you've got the fiançailles, which is actually the actual fact.
God, how we must be so that just proves the fact that British people don't pay attention to where they get words from.
Yeah, so it's my fiancé.
It's like, of course that the French for engaged would be fiancé. If you just sat and thought about it, you're like, right. It's like blamange. I'm like, what do you call a blamange in France? That'd be a blamange, isn't it?
What's a blamange?
It's like a pudding.
Oh.
You wouldn't like
What?
it. Blamange.
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, great. So now I've made a total arse of myself again.
What are you trying to say?
Just, you don't know what a blamange is?
Yeah, just say what it is.
You're
and
making that up.
A blamange is like it's like a cake.
Making it up.
It's like half a cake and half a jelly.
Oh, is that the Blamange, I think?
Yeah, that'll be it.
I've heard that once. I have absolutely no idea what it is, but I've heard it
Oh,
once.
thank God, Yann saved me there. I'm just like, like,
Blamange, innit?
I've got France and I'm going to get a blamange. It's like, they don't have blamange. It's like, blamange isn't an actual word, Adam. You've just made that up. And like, it sounds... I don't know why I'm doing an English one for it, but, it sounds totally credible that blamange would be a French word.
Well, that's tunnel vision. That's something I've been wondering about for years, and this film is also a very good example. The second shop run is he has something to do, so he doesn't notice anything.
Yeah.
Just like when you're asked to get something from the fridge, but you expect that thing to look like this.
Yeah.
And you just can't find it.
So
That's tunnel vision. That's how it's called. Yeah. And
I mean, it happens to us all, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
of
not
course.
anything, especially if you're going to, the corner shop. Like, you do that trip so many times.
Anouk has got a good story about tunnel vision.
Oh, God.
You know when you phoned me when you were in London and you just walked
Oh, yeah.
walked him out.
So basically, I realized something about my life and it was like mind blown. I was like, I cannot believe that I've been stuck in this for years, like in these horrible toxic relationships. And I was on the phone to Adam in London and I walked and I was just power walking because I was so angry and I was just bitching to Adam, like for it felt like hours, just like, oh my god, I can't believe that I've done this, and this is ridiculous, and do you remember this, and like last week I did this, and yesterday, oh my god, I can't believe that this ever happened to me. And I was going on, like, literally, I got people staring at me because I was just screaming. I was just in my own world. Realized that for 25 minutes I had been walking in the wrong direction. And I was and I wasn't even like, oh, I've got to turn around. I had no idea where I was. So literally, so I must have just walked and had no kind of, where am I going?
Yeah, that happens a lot when you drive also, which is quite scary because, tunnel vision means like you're only focused on what's in front of you and the periphery, to explain a bit, like the peripheral disappears like crazy. So I remember quite a few times when I drove and when I arrived, I just didn't
You don't remember how you got there. You're like, I don't know how I got here, but I did.
What streets and I used and whoa.
For a fun fact at the end of Anouk's story, so while Anouk's explaining all this to me, I'm standing on my old bed where I'm back in my hometown, and literally at the end, like in a film, Anouk like, so that's what happened. I crack, and my bed breaks, and I go flying through the middle of it. And Nick's like, what was that noise? I'm like, I just broke my bed by standing on it.
Like, why were you standing on it?
Like, I don't know.
Anyway, so that I completely know what tunnel vision is. And it's weird because you feel like you know exactly what you're doing, but you really don't. 25 minutes and I'm going, how do humans do this? How have we gone so far as to go to the moon when, like, we can, we just have to talk about something crazy and it's 25 minutes of...
To be fair, we have tunnel vision in the podcast. Like, we talk and talk and talk.
Yeah, true, sorry.
And we're like, wait a minute, we're a film podcast. We're a film podcast. And we're like, oh yeah, the film, I watch it. We're like, anyway, this is what happened in my life.
We're not just talking to our mates about something that happened a few weeks ago. Shaun of the Dead is really good. Tunnel vision. So basically that happens to him and it's really well done because obviously you don't have tunnel vision. So you're watching it going, how the hell are you walking past all of this like stuff? Like bins on, upside down and people like bleeding from and arms ripped off.
If you want some payoff. So we watched the scene the first time. Shaun going to the shop and he's interacting with all these people and the kid with the football, kicks it and he's like, oh, you're dead. Apparently Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg, they're like, in hindsight, there's like, we should have had a scene where we kicked the ball back at him and knocked his head off or something like that. Like they wanted to do that, but they just didn't think about doing it.
Wow.
But because that would have been worked perfectly because he kicks the ball at him. So,
That's true, actually.
Also, I really like that there are a lot of amputee extras in this.
Ah.
I mean, it makes sense that you would use amputees, but I didn't really think of that until we watched the commentary maybe a few months ago, and they were like, oh yeah, this is another one of our amputee actors, and it's just like, well, of course they would use amputee actors. Like, why the hell would they not?
Yeah.
Because that's just less. I mean, it goes back to so I have a massive scar on my left arm, and when we did a workshop with Patrick Tucker, shout out.
It's a rain dance link there.
Yeah, well, that's a rain dance link. He was like, you'd get a lot of work in hospitals, in like burn units or car accidents or something, because obviously you are cheaper because they don't have to use makeup. And so, I mean, it's not something that an actor would think of. Yeah, exactly.
You would get a lot of roles as like burnt dragon victim and stuff.
Right,
like
exactly.
Like they would use you as they would use your body. They would use a shot of like your chest.
Yeah.
To show the damage, and then they would like put makeup as well, so because they wouldn't have to use like a full prosthetic, they would just add more to your scar.
Right, and they obviously want it to look more fresh and more gory. So yeah, I mean, that's something to think about to anyone who's an actor or whatever.
Again, rounds back to a previous podcast and a previous point on this podcast.
And a previous episode of a podcast.
Did I do that? I said it.
That's the grammar fascist coming.
Look, I said episode. And then I said episode, and then I said podcast. Like, Adam, you had it right. What did you say it again? I meant in this episode, right? We talked about Kingsman briefly. So that was the big thing about Sophia Boutella from Atomic Blonde having the prosthetic legs in that film. And obviously she didn't. She doesn't have prosthetic legs.
Right, and I mean, I remember even asking you when we were watching it, like, does she actually have two prosthetic legs?
This was before we realised it was Sophia Boutella.
Right.
Oh yeah, of course she's got legs.
And then when we saw her in Atomic Blonde, it's like, oh, well, then she's not an amputee or whatever.
Or she grew her legs back.
Yeah, haha, very funny.
It's actually security from the studios. They know that the actor can deliver. There's a name there, so they're going for... I'm pretty sure that's the thing.
I think
Like,
what they do,
right.
they know she can act
Yeah.
pretty well. It's not
Yeah.
to denigrate anyone, obviously, but
No. And I mean, actually, for a long time, I had quite a lot of anger with that. Like, oh, just because you're not known, they don't want to take a risk on you. That's awful. It's all about money. But if you actually, you're on a film set and you realize how much stuff an actor has to know and how much time they can't waste time on you, like telling you and talking to you about how to act and what to do and all this stuff. So you need to know your job before you come on a film set. So I kind of understand why. But then it's also like, if you have an actor who has no legs, like underneath the knee, we should be able to use them. And it's just the same thing of like all these people saying, why does Doctor Who have to be a woman now? Because, Doctor Who was always a man. It's the same thing. It's like, yes, but now we should probably give women the chance to show that we can do the same stuff.
We'll talk about it on the Rain Dance episode, the differences between stage acting, which is a very much you learn that craft, you learn this intense and you're inner and you have your technique and all your acting ability. What people know is like actor training or drama school, really.
Right, it's hard work.
We'll talk about the actual difference because acting on film is a technical skill. It's like any instrument, there's a lot of stuff that you have to be able to do
every day, and
that people wonder like, oh, why do we not see them in film? It's like, I can understand why actors are more comfortable on stage rather than on film.
It's a bit more freeing.
I had another point as well. What did you just say? You said,
Thanks, Adam.
What was your end point? You said something about, I've remembered it now. Which goes back to what I said in the Alien episode about Tim Curry. That's why I believe that Tim Curry could easily reprise a role of some kind in the 2019 Chapter 2 It, because there should be no reason why an actor that suffered, his was a stroke, so any physically impaired actor should lose out on a part just because they're physically impaired.
Right.
And it works the same way. It's like all physically impaired actors should get the chance to play larger roles. I mean,
it's the same with race and sex.
There'll be a point in our lifetime where we go and see a Hamlet where the guy hasn't got any limbs or something like that. Like he's a disabled actor, which would be really interesting to see because it's unlike we recently, and especially with the whole boycott Oscars with black versus white for representation. It's like how studios sometimes mistake like, oh, if we make this character black, therefore it's for black people. It's like, no, it's got to be justified, and that's what we talk about with like, such as the reboot of Ghostbusters. It wasn't, they just put women in it instead of making the women the key point. It wasn't written for them. I hope that happens for actors with physically impaired or disabled actors. It's tough because I don't know what the correct term is for actors with disabilities. So I'm going to say that. I apologize if I've offended anyone. If anyone does know the correct term, please let me know. Because I would love if I had the ability to cast a Hamlet with an actor with, say, prosthetic legs. Absolutely. Oh, other point.
Shouldn't be an issue because it's exactly the same. I mean, if you have prosthetic anything, that means that you have, a function. It's just a machine. That's the only difference between him and me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it shouldn't be an issue.
Well, me and Anouk saw a Macbeth at the Shakespeare Globe. And the production was terrible, but the best thing in it was an actress who, it was her arms, right? She had
no, right arm.
She had no forearms, or was it?
Yeah, she had no right forearm.
Right, yeah. And she was the best thing in it, because she moved in a totally different way. She didn't care. Her character wasn't about her being disabled in that way.
And she used it, and it was funny. And I know sometimes you don't have to use it. Like, I mean, this is a big, big subject.
I just countered myself, didn't I? I said they used her and they didn't use the fact that she had a disabled arm. I meant the fact that I wasn't taken out of the scene because I'm looking, oh, she hasn't got a right forearm. It doesn't make sense. It worked. That's what I meant.
Yeah, right.
And also prosthetics, yes, but sometimes like we'll do a magic month, right? We'll try to do that with Now You See Me and Paul's documentary, Our Magic. In that documentary, there is a guy called Madi Gilbert. Well, you would think it's Gilbert, but no, last time we talked, it's from French, so Gilbert. Well, anyway, he has no hands. No prosthetics, but he does incredible card tricks. He created his own moves, and it's just incredible of a story of...
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
amazing.
That's really interesting.
And it's sad to think that, of course, he probably had to work harder than someone else. But then again, it's like, that's your life. And it's amazing that he's been able to just used that to his advantage, because obviously that's something that he's got above everyone else.
It's like when Patrick Tucker said to me about being a chunky fellow. He's like, well, if you don't like it, change it, you know?
Right, well, yeah.
And thick dudes?
Yeah. So
even though someone that doesn't have a limb can't exactly...
No, what I mean is the fact that he uses what he has.
Yeah.
You know, like, for me, it was change it or use it. And for his sense, it's, I can't change it, so I'm going to use it, and I'm going to make that why I'm the best at what I do.
Right. And different. And actually, to be fair, the more skills you have in this industry, because it's so harsh and it's so competitive, like, use it. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't be afraid of your differences, because that's what makes you different. Like, you don't want to be... I mean, I was even talking to one of my friends who's blonde and beautiful, and she's a very skilled actor, but she was talking about how hard it is because she's blonde and white, and there are so many white blonde girls out there that she feels like she has a lot. So I know that there are some people that are like, oh, we don't have enough ethnic actors, we don't have enough of this, we don't have enough of... But then now what's actually happening is that quite a lot of people are thinking, well, you know, we want someone different. So, I mean, things are changing. I mean, it's all a massive thing. There are so many problems with the world, isn't there?
My favorite Superman ever, Christopher Reeves. After his horse accident, he still had a few roles.
Yeah, he did, yeah. That's a very good point. We have totally just diverged from Shaun of the Dead.
But this is basically us saying, like, it's good that Edgar Wright used amputee actors, because he could have easily just put, you know, an arm behind the back and made it look bloody. You know, there are ways of doing it with people that have all their limbs, but the fact that he used stunt men and stunt women that actually were amputees, like, that's pretty awesome. Because
also, well, budget wise, I said that we were going to talk about in the Raindance episode, but Edgar Wright was the first intern at Raindance. It was the Elliot's Grove intern, way back.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I remember you saying this.
Young and eager, as Elliot says.
That's insane. That's amazing.
Soundtrack-wise, I realized something, not now, but during Raindance and Isolani, which I will touch on a bit later, but just to give a few ideas. I realized that in terms of soundtrack score, I'm more touched and ingrained by stuff that is composed rather than actual songs. When they are not, I mean, in there, most of the stuff is composed, and when you have songs, they either come from the car's radio or the jukebox, so there's an actual reason for them to appear, like in Baby Driver, actually. So
that's true. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, you just watch Alien.
If we think about the actual art form of composing music, and you go back to Beethoven and Mozart and all these amazing and music that will last forever, you know, because it is so well crafted. Again, it's a skill, and it's especially for movies and for like, for example, I think is it Mozart's season or is it Vivaldi? It's not Beethoven because it's two. But anyway, there's one that's got the seasons, and it's
Vivaldi.
Yeah, that's it. I was right. Vivaldi's four seasons. So each piece of the music represents like spring, summer, autumn, winter. You know, and that's just evolved throughout time to relate to cinema now, where it's composing for the scene. The best example of that is Lord of the Rings. The soundtrack, the score for Lord of the Rings is so epic and feeling that it has to be done right. It has to paint the picture. Because again, we've learned, because we make our own content as filmmakers for Milk and Wineglass, our production company. I've learned as trying to start as a filmmaker as well as an actor, that I used to always worry about lighting, but now more and more I'm like, sound is equally, if not more important sometimes, you know. For example, I've listened to a SoundCloud episode where it's the composer of the Game of Thrones theme, whose name is incredibly difficult to pronounce, so I won't even begin to pronounce it. But he talks about that he wanted to capture the fact that you were going on an adventure. You know, every time you heard that music, you're like, right, it's time, we're going on an adventure. And that's exactly, it nails it. It totally nails it. So it's equally as important. So yeah, I think Baby Driver is the first example of a soundtrack by song that paints a picture well. I mean, things have definitely tried to do it, like Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy did it, to pretty good success, I would say.
Yes, I was planning on talking about that in the Raindance one, but there's the rare ones which are very well.
Yes. It has to be thought out. It has to be a decision of we're going to do this with songs. We need to make sure we can get these songs, or I have to be committed to these songs. These songs have to be, you have to write the song into the scene. You know, you have to know the song so well that you can write the movement to the scene. Otherwise, it's just there for effect.
The whole point is the trigger. I mean, what I was talking about earlier, the composed stuff, like when I hear Jurassic Park theme, I'm immediately back into the thing. And a bit less with actual songs, except Guardian of the Galaxy and
Yeah. And I mean, I think 500 Days of Summer does that quite well.
Yeah. I mean Suicide Squad, Yann. I mean, the soundtrack to Suicide Squad.
No.
We have to talk about Suicide Squad. No, we have to, because it's so many examples of where they tried to do things and it just didn't work.
I hated that film. Anyway.
I think everyone kind of hated that film.
Right. We should watch Suicide Squad and then we can watch Shaun of the Dead again, because it just shows like the differences in like
Well, I mean, I do mean that Justice League's coming out this year, so maybe we should do
the end of the month, actually, I think.
This month?
Or in November.
It's early November.
November. Yeah.
So maybe we should do we should do Man of Steel, Superman versus Batman versus Superman, Suicide Squad, you know,
Wonder Woman,
the DCU world. I know it. Everyone sounded so excited to do that one.
I don't know. Actually, I liked pretty much all of them except Suicide Squad, to be honest.
I haven't seen any of them except Suicide Squad, actually.
I was not...
Honestly, I haven't.
That might be my fault, to be fair.
I was not on the Martha hate train.
Why did you say that name?
Oh, God. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I've seen some scenes, and it just, in the terms of just acting, I thought it was just looked poor. I know it got a lot of hate, and I probably shouldn't say anything until I've seen it, because that's not fair.
No, I mean, in terms of popcorn entertaining value, it was strong, I would say.
Right, and I mean, there's a lot of movies like that. I mean, I know Marvel is really
Army of
good.
Darkness. Army of Darkness was like that for me. You know, turn off, watch this crazy film, enjoy it. You know, there are films that work like that. As long as you're committed in your
Hollywood eyes.
as long as you're committed to the theme that you set, then go for it.
Yeah, of course.
It reminds me of a beautiful song also. In your Hollywood eyes, you can see... Well, anyway.
We don't talk about that.
No, we don't talk about that. Did you notice that your young blonde friend with a phone was in there? Well, there was something looking a bit like this when Ed is just taking a phone while they are struggling to get into the Winchester.
To be fair, he wasn't on Snapchat in the middle of the movie, so I'm not annoyed at Ed. I'm still annoyed at that.
I see. Yes, I know what you mean. But I mean, yeah.
Well, you made me aware of the thing because during Rendance, we've seen Isolani, which is a world premiere. So you had pretty much the whole room was people involved with the productions or friends. And we had some Snapchat action going on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I there was a woman that was sitting like maybe 3 seats over, and she was on the phone pretty much the whole time. And not even trying to hide the phone. It was like in front of her face. So even like her face lit up. And it was just like, well...
Do you want to mention this now, or should we wait for Raindance to talk about it?
Yeah,
we'll wait.
Sorry.
Because I was about to go for, like, was it version 2.0?
Yes.
Of the phone rant.
Another phone rant.
We'll save that for Raindance.
Yeah. Anyway.
There are so many iconic things in this film. For example, the whole jumping over the fence gag.
Oh, yes.
Very good. Which they do also do in Hot Fuzz.
And they do it in World's End too.
Oh, perfect.
It's there too.
I don't know if it's a conscious reference, probably yes, but when Shaun is talking about the guys explaining what will happen in where he works, he mentions a guy who's sick, who's named Ash.
Yeah, I did spot that too. That was funny. That's only funny though because we just watched Army of Darkness.
Yes.
Yeah. Did we also notice the Danny Boyle reference at the very end of the film?
No.
At the very end of the film when they're watching it's actually quite funny because Shaun his plan actually does unfold. Like he gets to the Winchester and then we're like, I'll go home for a cup of tea and that'll be good. And he's sitting at home drinking a cup of tea with his partner, Liz. And the last thing you hear on the TV before she turns it off is the theory that the plague was caused by infected monkeys has been, and then it cuts off. Which is obviously the reference to 28 Days Later, because that is rage is because of animal testing.
Yeah, okay.
Have you guys not seen 28 Days Later in a while?
A very long time ago.
That's a good film.
Well, I don't know.
Very
Remember
good
if it
film.
was 21 weeks. There are more than one, right?
There's
Weeks and
there's 28 days and then there's 28 weeks. And then there might be another one, but I can't remember if there is.
month. No, I don't know. I've only
28 months later, Jesus.
Richie. It's like, no, you got the number wrong. It's 27.
Yeah. So
We've noticed a few friendly faces there. I don't remember the name of the guy, unfortunately, but there was Martin Freeman in there.
Martin Freeman.
Yeah.
And there was the second guy of the Inside Number 9 duo.
So it's either Reece Shearsmith or Steve Pemberton.
I think it's Shearsmith.
I think it's Shearsmith.
Reece Shearsmith, is it?
Unfortunately, we won't be talking about this mini-series because it's too good. And we can't, we tend to go into spoilers, and it's so well-written and relying on twists that it would be a shame.
Basically, Inside Number 9, every episode has a twist, basically. It's a lot like Tales of the Unexpected, but good. Obviously, Tales of the Unexpected was a really bizarre show. I don't know if you had... It must be a British thing. I'll show you a couple of episodes.
I know Tales from the Crypt, but that's not what I did.
You know, I can't remember there's an American version of it, but yeah. Have you seen the recent series of Inside Number 9, Series 3? Have you only seen
Yes, I've seen... I've
like
seen
the one with the bill when they're all out to dinner? And,
yes, yes.
That's a great episode.
So good.
Yes.
They're all really good.
Yes, really.
And there's one who looks, actually, it's good that I'm talking about this because there's one with a friend who is squatting. So a bit like Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, yeah. The hobo. Oh, yeah. So many good, I wish we could have an Inside Number 9 podcast, but you can't because it would ruin it for everyone.
Yeah, because you want to speak about it with spoilers.
We could probably do a Psychoville and League of Gentlemen sort of thing.
Please.
Have you seen Psychoville, Yann?
Was that one of the episodes? Or
No,
was
it's
something else.
It's a TV series. It's a series they did before. They did Inside Number 9 because Psychoville was so bizarre and macabre that BBC couldn't renew it. They didn't renew it past 2 seasons.
Couldn't handle it.
They couldn't handle it. It was like, this is so weird.
Yeah, it was
You
weird.
can see the seeds in League of Gentlemen, which is coming back, so we should talk about it at some point in the future.
Right.
The movie that destroyed Sean Connery's career.
Oh, God.
Pretty much.
There was a TV series called The League of Gentlemen, which features the writer of Sherlock, Matt Gatiss, and the two that wrote Inside Number 9. They did a sort of almost sketch and comedy series that link together. It's a very much like Psychoville, but we'll talk about that one day.
Well, it's not the League of the Extraordinary Gentlemen.
No,
just normal.
It's just called The League of Gentlemen.
Okay, no, so forget the Sean Connery.
No, Sean Connery is not in The League of Gentlemen.
I know, I've seen that film. Yeah, that's a very odd film.
I thought the connection, obviously they had the spaced experience, but the connection between the two leads was just like they were friends.
Yeah,
like,
you
really,
just they are as well,
nice.
so you feel it,
yeah.
you know.
Very, very good.
Very natural.
One of those rare moments on film that you're like, I can see them as a real people, which was nice, you know, it's real acting.
Real acting.
Because it's not ultra faked.
Also, a joke that comes twice. 2 jokes that come twice. 2 jokes at the start when Sean is coming and you've got the camera going up. You feel that he may be zombified already, like when he's yawning.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also the fart. And those 2 jokes come back way afterwards.
Yeah. It's very true.
All good stuff.
Love
We could
that.
talk about we could take it apart scene by scene, but that's not what we do here at The Good, the Bad,
No,
and Just Plain
not
Standard.
really.
We talk about what we like about it, and then we go off at tangents and have a discussion. We're a movie discussion podcast, not a review podcast, I'm afraid.
You're right. Yes, that's correct. Indeed.
Maybe that's
just-
our unique selling point.
We just have a rating at the end, but it's just like, it moves. So like, I mean, we had the good standard and it's not
Right.
the title. Like,
Okay, I came up with a title when I was watching something. Maybe it was a bit of a pun off of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, because I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if you could talk about films that were good and bad? There you go, you've covered it in the title. But for me, for example, right, Army of Darkness. If Army of Darkness wasn't committed to what it is, you know, that whole having so much fun with it, right? That would be a bad movie. The thing is, Army of Darkness, regardless of if you are a fan of it or not, you can't call that a standard movie because it's so committed to what it is. When you watch other films, let's take a standard film that I've seen all the way through, so I will judge it as that. Like, for example, let's say
Suicide Squad?
No, Suicide Squad's just a bad movie. But the thing is, like, that's a good example though, because
just plain bad.
just plain bad.
Just plain bad.
Passenger with Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt. I believe it's Chris
I
Pratt.
haven't seen it.
It's just, it's just another standard movie. It's just, I've seen this movie before. Essentially, just plain standard is, I've seen this movie before and it doesn't do anything new with the formula. I haven't seen Life, which is essentially Alien again.
Oh, yes.
But apparently that's quite interesting because,
that looked actually quite good.
because the script was spontaneous that you didn't know who was going to die when. So I quite like that idea. But that's what I mean. That can't be just plain standard because they've tried to do something with it, It can only be good or bad. They're never going to be just standard. A film that commits to what it is can't be just standard. When a film is just mundane, there for the money, just plain standard. Emoji Movie, just plain standard. Doesn't do anything new with it. It's not even bad, because bad would be a compliment. Because a bad movie, people go, oh, let's watch it. Just plain standard. An example of a really difficult one to categorize, which we will watch one day if we're doing International Month. Who Killed Captain Alex? A Nigerian action film. Totally bizarre. You can't... It's like it's almost like a student film. It's that weird.
That's a bad film.
Yeah, it is, but it's not just plain standard because...
No, it's not a standard.
But I'd quite like to review that with open eyes because I would like to go and see the whole film.
Yeah.
I've only seen bits of it, but...
I'm trying to think of a standard film, and I can't. And maybe that's because it's standard. It's just like your mind is just like,
this
nope,
is what I mean.
black that out.
The just plain standard movies you don't remember. You don't. I'm sure Hitman's Bodyguard would have been a just plain standard for me if I hadn't walked out 20 minutes.
Emoji Movie.
The funny thing is with Emoji Movie is we went to see it because everyone was saying this is the worst animated film in history. I'm like, let's go and see this train wreck. It wasn't the worst animated film I've seen in history. The production value behind it was huge, but it was boring.
It was nothingy.
That's how bad it was. It was just plain standard. So that's how our rating system works. If a film is irredeemable,
Yeah, there you go.
it's just plain standard.
Yeah.
Which means when we eventually do come to a film that is just plain standard, which I'll be honest, will probably only happen in the modern releases because when we choose the films to watch together, we have prior knowledge of them before. And we've never chosen a film that's just plain standard yet. Maybe we should. Maybe we'll have a just plain standard month where we watch just plain standard films. Because
Yeah? I mean, I would hate that, but yeah.
yeah, but those episodes will be difficult for us to talk about because the film is so dull, and it'll mostly be us talking about other movies, really.
Yeah, that would be a challenge.
So yeah,
That's correct.
that's what I mean by that's why we're the good, the bad, and the just plain standard. We talk about the good movies, we talk about the bad movies, and sometimes we watch the just plain standard movies.
Just for you.
just for you, and we'll talk
Do you have a
about
quote in mind for this one that you liked?
that I like the most.
She's engaged. Oh, that was quick.
That,
This is serious, Ed.
My favourite scene is that whole bit with the throwing the records. It's like,
Liz gave me that.
let's give me that. That's Liz's. The Batman soundtrack. Chuck it.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, and you have a quote.
Yes. I don't think I have it in me to shoot my mum, my flatmate, and my girlfriend all in the same evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Good.
I'm weird with quotes because I like funny phrases. For example, this scene where when he's just threatening Dylan Thomas's character, and Edge just goes yeah every time Shaun says
You
something.
mean Moran?
David Moran.
Dylan Thomas, I think, is a famous author.
The name Dylan Thomas rings a bell.
Moran.
No, Thomas, because that's the one I said. Did I say Moran or Thomas? I'm losing it, man.
It's Dylan Moran.
I know, I was trying... right, okay. Dylan Moran. But actual quotes, like, for example, my favourite quote in Shaun of the Dead is probably, pack it in, you silly bastard. Like, shit like that, I just find funny. Like, it's just great.
I like the way it ended, like post-events. There was the Z-Day and there's those Zombie 8 guys trying to get money and the zombie game show. Like the update, I married a monster.
Yeah.
Trisha, yeah.
He's still my husband. Still love him.
I still engage him, innit?
Very good.
Very, very good. So,
Yeah.
I think it's time for the question. Anouk, Yann, is Shaun of the Dead good, bad, or just plain standard? Yann?
Good. Very, very good.
Anouk?
Yep, very good.
And in the style of the future Rory McCann in Hot Fuzz, it's good. Yarp. Yarp.
So basically, we were
Adam.
Anouk.
and Yann. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Somebody fetch me a cornetto now. I'm quite hungry now.